I've been asked to do a complexion video for a while to show how I put my foundation and my powder and my concealer and my bronzer and my highlighter on. And people never believe me how much makeup I put on. So that's part of the reason they asked me to do this. And before I even get started, I'm just going to address it. I like full coverage. This is what I choose to do. Not everybody has to do this. I have foundations for when I just want to run out the door and they're really light coverage, but for the most part, I always wear full coverage. But I also can apply it and take the time to apply it to make sure it looks like skin and doesn't look like a mask. So I know I'm going to get a lot of people that are like, but your skin looks so pretty right now. Why would you want to cover it up with all that makeup? And I will show you really close. I have some dark spots. I have some scarring. So this is me being very, very vulnerable right now because I never leave the house without foundation on, and now I'm doing a video with none on. But the only thing I have on my face right now is obviously moisturizer and serum and a little bit of a makeup primer. So I like to let my primer sit for a little bit. I like to apply my moisturizer and let that sit for at least 10 minutes before I put my foundation on. I feel like it wears longer. So when I apply my foundation, I have a trick that I've been using for like 12 years, and it's kind of opposite of what everyone does because everyone now highlights on the inside of your face and contours on the outside of the face. But I've been doing this halo style makeup application for a long, long time. I had a client teach it to me about 12 years ago, where I get a foundation color that matches my jawline, and I am super, super fair. So if I put all of that all over, I would feel extra pale. But then I take another color foundation and I put it on, and it is super dark. But I put it on the inside of my face, so I'll demo that so you can see the two colors and how different they are and how I apply them. So I am going to start with the lighter color. Use my favorite foundation brush. It's a little bit different type of brush. It's a little more compact than a normal tapered foundation brush. I start on the outside of my face and I swirl it on, I stipple it in. You'll see me do lots of different techniques here, but I really do layer it on. And I always start with the outside of my face. And I need a lot of coverage on this area. Not a lot of people do, but I do have some scarring from breakouts in the past, and I have some dark spots from sun damage. So I need some coverage there. It takes me about 1.5 pumps to do the whole outside of my complexion, which is a lot of makeup, especially this foundation in particular. The pumps are pretty generous. So I take that light color, put it above my lip, and just keep blending. I also use it on my forehead. Now I go a little lighter coverage on my forehead because I don't need as much up there. But I still apply it up there because otherwise my contour products won't stick there later. People ask me, well, why do you put it up there if you don't need coverage up there? I need a little bit of coverage just to even it out, but not really. It's really just to hold the contour product later. But I make sure it's really nicely blended. And I go around the outside completely. And then I go back in a little bit more deliberate. And I stipple on more coverage depending on what I need at the moment. I'm layering more on. You know, sometimes you have to move your face and manipulate it a little bit to get it where you need it. The key to this and foundation is just blend. You can't over blend but you can definitely underblend. So now I'm going to take my darker shade, and I'm going to start on the inside of my face and work my way out. Because I am so fair, I was saying, if I put that lighter color all over, I would feel extremely, extremely pale. And if you try to get too dark with bronzer, you will see a lot of powder on your face. And I don't like to see any type of powder on my face. I like my foundation to look like skin as much as possible. So I'm very light on powders. So what I do is I take the darker shade, which is, it's about 3 shades darker. This is a shade 20. This is a shade 50. The other great thing about having it is when I do a spray tan, I also have my darker shade on hand. So I have both foundations always. I do believe everyone should have 2 shades of foundation to transition them through winter and summer. And you can always mix them as you need them if you're going through different seasons. So I do take it under my eyes. I will go back with concealer later. So after I get like my base layer on here, I will take my fingers, my hands, and I will warm the foundation, especially in around the pores, just to make sure that it's all blended and there's no residue over here by my nose and it's not clumping anywhere around my eyes. So I make sure it's like super, super smooth. And then I can always go back and add a little more coverage where I need it, which is typically for me on the outer part of my face. So far. Just make sure. Okay. Clean that off my hand. The next step is to powder. I am old school. I like loose powder. A lot of people don't use loose powder anymore. I love loose powder. I even travel with loose powder. That's how much I love it. I just believe that it looks the most natural and it's the best way to set your makeup. So I go ahead and press a little loose powder into my skin. You want to avoid like really rubbing hard with the powder brush because then you're just removing a lot of the foundation that you just spent 5 minutes putting on. So you kind of roll it on. But I do love a loose powder. So I'm trying to bring loose powder back. I just think it looks more natural and it's not as drying looking and it just sets your foundation. The other thing about it is I do have some pressed powders that I use for bronzing and highlighting. I don't even touch up with pressed powder. I touch up with a cream compact, which throughout the day, I'll show you what it looks like. If I need to touch up, I actually use a cream because it looks more natural than the powder does. That's what I do. The next thing I do is concealer. So what I'm going to do, I like to use a really, really pink concealer to take away any darkness. Right in the inside. My sister just commented on my post on Facebook about probably my brows. Okay, here we go. And I blend it out with the same brush I put on with my foundation with. And I do have a concealer brush, and I will show that to you. But the reason I use the foundation brush first is because I just like the kind of airbrush look it gives when I brush it out. And the concealer brush is really good if you need to go back and do any more detailed work. And I always, again, take my fingers and warm it. Concealer can be really tricky. The great thing about the concealer I use is that it does not set onto lines. And it's really, really important to splurge on a good concealer because it is something that can age you very quickly if you're using one and it settles into dehydration lines. I do drink a good amount of water, so I don't really have really bad dark circles or puffiness. But occasionally, if I don't get enough sleep, I do get like little indentations there. In that case, so I lean up again. Sorry, keep doing that. I can go back with my concealer and put a little bit more on, and then take my concealer brush and just put it exactly where I need it. And that's what I use my concealer brush for. But other than that, I use a foundation brush. Just make sure everything is really blended. See it? So next we're going to do the contour. And since I use powder first, I'm going to use the powder contour. If I wanted to use a cream contour, I would have put the cream directly on my foundation and then put powder over top of it. Cream contours go on top of creamy finishes and powders go on top of powder finishes. So that's the kind of rule when you're contouring. So I'm going to apply my bronzing powder. I like a cool color. And the lighting in here is not perfect, like as far as symmetrically. So if it looks a little off, that's the only reason why. I can do my makeup in the dark pretty much. But I place it right under where my cheekbone is because I want to lift. So the higher you place your contour, the more lifted your cheekbone's going to be. A lot of times people put it more underneath here, but I like it to really lift my face. Contour is amazing because the idea is that everyone wants to have an oval face, and you can really manipulate the look of your face based on where you apply your contour color. I have an oval face right now, always. I already have that ideal face shape. So I just have to use it to lift my cheekbones. And a key to putting on bronzer for me, or contour, is to use my foundation brush that I just put my foundation brush and my foundation product on with and blend out the edges. Like that. And it just looks smooth. Then I'm going to do my highlighter. And I'm going to make myself look really crazy for a second. I'm going to put a triangle under each eye. I go up on the cheek bone. I do a triangle right there. A little on my nose. A little under my nose. Anywhere you have like a shadow that you want to highlight. Then I let it sit for a second. And while I let that sit, I take the same brush I put my contour color on and I contour my chin a little bit. And I contour my forehead a little bit. And I like my highlighter just to be able to sit for a second before I blend it in. So then I take the time to do this. Then I have another brush, just like my foundation brush, except I use it for blending out highlighter. So it's the same brush, it's just designated for highlighter. Because I don't want my foundation to interfere with the highlight. And the residue would kind of take away from that. This highlighting product is super inexpensive and it's amazing. And it does not crease under the eye, on my nose. I don't have to do a lot of shading on my nose because I have small features, but I will go ahead and show you where you would apply it and put a little bit of contour on my nose. So after I apply my highlighter, I can then go back if I want and touch up with the same brush. I didn't apply any more product, but just a little bit. If I removed any, I can always go back. Just make sure everything is really, really blended, and that's the real key. You can also take a little highlighter underneath where you applied your contour. Just give a little extra if you want, a little extra pop. And then I have a little brush that I'll use. It's like about this size to do my nose a little bit. And I can't do too much, or I make my nose look so small that it's like kind of really crazy looking. So I just do a little bit of contour, and I have to be really careful. Because again, I contoured my nose too much one time and it was like Michael Jackson nose. A little bit on the tip of your nose if you want to shorten it. Inside. Like that. And then the last step is, as far as highlighting goes, it's just to set it. And this you don't have to do, but I like to set it because I have this great setting powder. It's a Les Beige powder by Chanel, and it's the same type of powder I use for my contour, except it's in a highlighting color. And I would never put powder under my eyes if it wasn't for this color, or this product rather, and it is just a genius product. I was never big on anything pressed until I discovered this product, and it is just amazing. So I like to just kind of set it a little bit there. Again, you can just make sure everything's touched up, and then blush. And for blush, I'm going to use a really bright pink today. And I don't want to bring the blush too low. So I'm going to kind of lift my face, so I want to bring it up higher so that when my face is relaxed, the blush doesn't come below my nose. Especially when you have small features, you have to be careful that you use small brushes and you place it where you need it. And you can always go back with your foundation brush and make sure that there's no edges. So I've been talking while I've been doing this. It actually usually takes me a solid 15 minutes. Right now we're at like 18 and a half. It takes me 15 minutes to do my complexion. But that is why it also doesn't look cakey. So it looks polished and finished and still natural. I don't have a line. I mean, I can tell you, my guy friends, the number one thing they say to me when they talk to me about girls they're dating or girls they just met and they are dating is, Andrea, can you help me fix her foundation? Because they can actually see her line, and that's like the biggest complaint I get from guys about girls' makeup. Guys think they don't like makeup, but they do like makeup. They just don't want to see it. So that's kind of the trick, is to put it on so it doesn't look like a mask. So that's pretty much how you have to do it. You have to take your time, and you have to use the heat from your fingers to blend. You have to use your brush to blend. You have to use a good foundation that's good for your skin type. I like a radiant finish, and I like a full coverage. So I choose something that's very radiant and kind of hydrating. I'm normal skin type, sometimes a little dry. So I definitely choose something that's right for my skin type. So it's really important to find something that looks best on your skin. But it's amazing to me how I tell people how much makeup I wear and they don't believe me until they're trying to remove it all. And they're like, wow, you do really wear a lot of makeup. But so yeah, that's how you do your complexions. If you have any questions, you can just private message me.